Welcome to the Doubles Only Tennis Podcast, where you learn the best doubles lessons to improve your game and win more matches while getting to know some of the top doubles players and coaches on the planet. I'm your host, Will Bochek. This podcast, my weekly strategy newsletter, and my website all focus on the goal of better understanding the sport of doubles and helping players like you improve faster through actionable advice that you can use in your very next match. My goal is to provide the best doubles resources in the world. And to do that, I study, analyze, and work with players at every level of the game, all the way up to the ATP and WTA tours. If you enjoy this podcast, consider becoming a Tennis Tribe member to go even deeper and take your doubles IQ to the next level. Members get access to premium podcast episodes, weekly video lessons, monthly strategy webinars, courses, ebooks, gear discounts, and a lot more. Go to thetennistribe.com/memberships to see all the benefits and sign up. Here's today's episode. This is a conversation with Rajeev Ram. Rajeev has been on the podcast several times. He is a former world number one in doubles. He has 4 men's Grand Slam doubles titles, 2 mixed Grand Slam doubles titles, 2 ATP Tour finals, 32 total career ATP doubles titles. He was as high as number 56 in the world in singles, has 2 ATP career singles titles, and some people don't consider him an actual tennis player. I'm joking, of course. We do briefly touch on the recent comments from Marty Fish, but I didn't want that to be the focus of the conversation because Rajeev is coming off a Masters 1000 title in Cincinnati. So we talked a lot about that. We talked about what went well for him and his new partner, Nikola Mektić. We also discussed how to build that team chemistry early on in a partnership. We moved on to talk about mixed doubles at the U.S. Open. This was recorded during the finals day of the mixed doubles tournament. So Rajeev shares what changes he would make going into next year for the mixed doubles tournament and how close he was to getting a wild card. We also discussed the singles versus doubles debate. I don't really like to call it that, but if you get 2 of the top singles players on a doubles court against the top doubles team, why some people still think that the singles players might win. I also asked him if he thinks that Jannik Sinner could become doubles world number 1 in the next 2 years if he focused on doubles, and he had a really thoughtful answer to that as well. And then at the end, I get to a lot of your questions from Twitter and Instagram, including how long Rajeev wants to keep playing tennis, how he maintains his health and manages his recovery, and a lot more. This was a really fun conversation. There's lots of strategy tips that Raj shares. You'll also get some insights into his kind of perspective on where he's at in his career and his current level of tennis as well. So without further delay, enjoy this conversation with Rajeev Ram. Hey everyone, welcome to the show. Today we have Rajeev Ram back on. Rajeev, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, happy to be back on.
So you are coming off a Cincinnati title, big tournament for you and Nikola, and there's been a lot going on even since then. And I thought about, I got a lot of questions from Instagram and Twitter, and I had 3 or 4 different questions I wanted to lead with, but I thought I would start with this. Do you consider yourself an actual tennis player?
Yes, I do. Short answer. I will consider myself an actual tennis player. Probably for the rest of my life, I will consider myself an actual tennis player.
So that's what it takes: 4 Grand Slam titles and top 60 in singles. And give us a little background, I guess, on the Fish situation. I don't want to harp on this because I want to focus on your Cincinnati title and a few other topics, but a bunch of people asked about it. So if you can just share, like, what is the deal with the relationship and what's kind of your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have too much to say. I mean, I haven't spoken to him since 2022 in the fall. So it's almost 3 years ago. It's quite strange, for someone to sort of position themselves as a mental health advocate, rightfully so for various reasons, and then take shots at another player and whatever. I mean, whatever relationship we may or may not have. I mean, I wouldn't see myself being able to do that, no matter how I felt about somebody. So. Yeah, that's really all I have to say. I hope he's doing all right because sure doesn't seem like it, but I hope he's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good answer. I mean, I feel like, yeah, to do something like that, I feel like you've got to be struggling a little bit. So I hope he's doing okay too. So let's move on to Cincy. First off, congrats on the title.
Thanks.
What went so well for you and Nikola over the course of that week?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think it started from that week. We started playing in DC and we didn't play very well at all. But I think right from the get-go, we had a great sort of rapport. Discussing matches, discussing feelings out there. We both haven't had our best seasons by any stretch, and so we were able to sort of lay everything out on the table. And it was a couple weeks. Then we did a little better in Toronto. Didn't practice well there, but ended up playing a couple of decent matches. And so it sort of started building for me, from the first couple of weeks we played. These types of things for me at least don't seem to happen just one off. I think it usually takes some work, it takes some background. But I mean, I just have a lot of respect for him as a player. As we said, we joked, we've taken so many titles away from each other. It's nice to actually win one together. But and then on top of that, we had a great team. I mean, for me also at this point in my career, playing around people I really care about and close to home is super important. It's extra motivating. It's something I actually struggled with in my career to start with. I felt a lot of pressure, but now I feel like it's the most motivating thing for me. So, it probably brought out the best of me.
How did the partnership kind of come about?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it before, a few years ago. There's a few different times where we talked about possibly playing. It didn't work out for one reason or another. And then, he asked me kind of after, during the grass season, what am I doing for the summer hard court? And I just said, look, I'd love to play with you. I have nothing, and he had nothing. And so we set up a deal to play through the US Open and see how that goes. And that was it. It wasn't too much more than that. We had talked about it, before though in previous years. It just wasn't quite the right time.
I know this is probably easy to say like in retrospect, but you said the weeks leading up to it, you had good kind of communication with
Hmm.
him. You felt like you played well in Toronto before the tournament. Like if I had asked you before the tournament, do you feel like you're playing the best you have been all year, or do you feel like you have a really good chance to win this title? What do you think you would have said?
You mean in Cincy, obviously?
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, the answer to the first question is yes. I think I was playing the best I've played all year. Do I think I have a really good chance to win the title? I mean, we were still 5 matches away from, before the first tournament, before the first match.
sure.
So I felt like I wouldn't have had a great answer to that question, but I did feel like I was playing the best tennis I've played all year. And, I've I've historically done well in this swing, whether it be these two tournaments or the U.S. Open. I mean, it's my favorite time of the year to play. So, I mean, I felt like I would have had as good a chance as anywhere else, to pick up a title for sure. But that particular one, I don't know. I don't know if I would have said yes to that.
Yeah. I want to talk about the backhand return. I was looking for the highlight earlier and I couldn't find it again. But I think it was 5-6 in the 10-point tiebreaker. Is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Um,
I had a couple. I was feeling it in that breaker for sure.
the cross court one. They
Yeah.
were running I to you and they served. It wasn't super wide. It was kind of body backhand and you just stepped in and ripped it cross court. And I think even I don't remember who was at the net, but they were going left and you just got it by them so quick. They had no
Yeah.
shot. Um, what were you thinking during that point, and how do you execute a return like that?
Yeah, I mean, so it sort of started a bit before that. It was Sonego serving and Musetti was playing at the net, and when that was happening, they were serving my backhand and crossing a fair bit. I don't know if it was I honestly can't remember. I feel like it might have been regular, at least before in the match, it was regular that they played. But anyway, regardless, Musetti was covering the cross court as the net player, however he got there. And so at 3-0 in that breaker, I kind of felt like it was going to happen, and I hit it down the line for a winner, which, for me is not always the easiest shot. And then I just sort of felt like they were going to run that play again. But I was like, this time I just sort of, I'm going to hit it where I feel like I'm going to hit it. And it just sort of, it one of those things where it happened in slow motion. The ball was right there. And I honestly hit it as hard as I could. And it went in. And it was like, I almost just felt like if he was going to go and he was going to cross and make a move and knock off a volley, that's too good. I wasn't going to worry about that. I was seeing it great. I was going to hit it well. And if he was going to be able to deal with it, then that's fine. I didn't really hit it thinking, oh, I'm going to try to hit a winner here. It just sort of happened. But that was sort of the thought process, I guess, going into that point. I did have a feeling though that they were going to try that play again.
Mm. So yeah, one of the things watching the highlight of it, and I'll see if I can find it and link to it in the show notes for people. One of the things I loved about it is how you took it from basically it was inside the baseline.
Yeah.
So you took it so early. So in that case, the net player just has even less time to react regardless of how hard you hit it. You also happen to hit it really hard and really clean. But taking it early was able to kind of get it by them even quicker. Uh, do you have any tips or things that you kind of focus on for returning? And then tips for people listening as well.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think each match is different. I think you got to understand when you're a returner that you still are playing defense, like the other person is serving the ball. So, I mean, it's not like you should be, offensive on all the points and winning all the points. So for me in that particular match, I felt like they were getting me with that play, sort of a 3/4 pace first serve to my backhand, and Musetti was covering the cross. So in that exact moment, I was like, okay, I'm going to let him beat me with a big serve. If he steps up and hits a 125, somewhere, and I get a little rushed because I'm close to the baseline, that's fine, But I didn't want to get beat again with sort of like a 3/4 pace serve. I wanted to make sure I was ready for that one. So I think it's a little bit about understanding what's going on, understanding how the server is serving to you, and trying to take away maybe what you think they're going to do, or make them hit a slightly riskier serve. That's at least how I look at returning. I look at it more from a standpoint of, I'm defending. I can't defend everything, but what do I want to make sure I defend?
Mm. Yeah, that's good. A lot of people listening who are club players, when I watch them, they don't make those adjustments forward and backwards. They just return from the same spot every time. So I think that's a
Yeah.
big takeaway for sure. Um, I wanted to switch back to your partnership with Nikola. What are some of the, I guess, conversations or routines that you have early in a partnership to build that team chemistry as quickly as possible?
So that's an interesting question because I don't have not really experienced this too much. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
I
true.
started playing doubles only in 2017, and I didn't really have like a steady partner in 2018 for various reasons. And then in 2019, I started playing with Joe, and 6 years went by, and I didn't play with anybody else. Right, so it's like the idea of what to do with a new partnership is pretty foreign to me. And I think that was one of the challenges this year of, having a couple of different partners was like, how does this work? Do you try and like mimic things that you did before? Do you try and sort of like start completely new? And so I felt like with Nikola, we sort of, at least for me, I wanted to know sort of like what he thought of me as an opponent. And I kind of tried to tell him the same thing as like, look, when I played you, this was really difficult to deal with. And maybe this was not so difficult to deal with. And like I said, we played each other in some bigger matches. And so just trying to like see it from the other person's perspective was something that we talked about a bit. The other thing is just sort of like working together, spending time together, whether it's on the court. Sometimes in new partnerships, you have to like, get to know the person a little bit more. I mean, I obviously I've played against him a long time, but, haven't really gotten to know him as a person. So, little extra things. Oh, we'll sit at breakfast together. We might have a coffee, or we might, whatever it might be, just to kind of build a little bit of a rapport with somebody that you don't know that well. But that this is all a bit new to me because in my doubles career, I've not really had too much partner changing.
Interesting. Yeah. I didn't even realize that when I wrote this question down. But I should have. But it sounds like you have to be pretty intentional with building that chemistry.
I mean, I do. I'm not sure if that's the case with everybody else, but I certainly feel like I can play my best when I'm pretty familiar with what's going on and I'm pretty comfortable in a situation.
Sure. So I want to move on to the mixed doubles. Have you been watching the U.S. Open mixed doubles? And what have we learned from this kind of experiment by the USTA, by the U.S.
Yeah,
Open?
to be honest, I haven't watched it. I think it
Okay.
started yesterday, I believe. Once I
hmm
knew I wasn't going to participate, I didn't watch it. But I'm not sure. I think we have to wait for it to like finish to really realize what we have and haven't learned. I mean, I think I would probably, in order to answer this question properly, probably have to watch them to see what the atmosphere is like and what the sort of players are, how the intensity is and how all that is. So I don't know. I will say, like I've said a bunch of times, I applaud them for innovation. I applaud them for making an effort to draw attention to this event or this discipline in a Grand Slam. There are definitely some things I would have done differently had I been part of the decision making process, but I can't for 1 second say that they're not trying, because they definitely are trying to do some different things.
Well, first off, how close were you to getting a wild card?
I don't think I was that close.
No. Okay. What changes would you make if they were to come to you and say, "We want you to run it next year"? What would you do?
I mean, I would let doubles players enter with doubles ranking flat out. A lot of these players that are in for singles would have been in anyways. Whether you're talking about Jack Draper and Jess Pagula, or Iga Swiatek and Casper Ruud. I mean, I don't exactly know the exact numbers, but as any other tournament would be, they would be in, as would some of the top doubles players. So I think it would be an interesting mix. The timing of it, in the fact that it's the first, or it's a qualifying week, allows the singles players to play, because they're not dealing with singles matches. And on the men, obviously 3 out of 5 is brutal. So I still think you would have the interest, but I think it would be a bit more of a competition that would warrant giving a Grand Slam trophy for.
Mm. So I feel like we saw this yesterday. I did watch it. Vavasori and Irani won both of their matches in straight sets against, I guess, more talented tennis players. Uh, it seems like if we were to do that, the doubles specialists, I guess, would probably win the majority of the matches.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, I'm kind of getting tired of the debate. Like John Wertheim tweeted out yesterday, the um, something about like, this is an interesting debate. It was in response to one of Vavasori's press conference comments, and it was like, they seem to be trying to prove a point for the double specialist, right? And Fritz recently talked about, it's cool if the top singles players can play, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I feel like this debate's kind of settled. Like we saw it at the Olympics last year. Um, Singles players enter the draws all the time, and the doubles specialists do lose some matches, but overall, I think the doubles specialists tend to win. What's your kind of take on that?
Yeah, it seems to come up once or twice a year, and somehow people get the idea that if singles players play, they would win. I mean, I heard it from the beginning of the Olympics last year. Well, Rafa and Carlos are playing. Why don't we just give them the gold? Like, well, how about we just play and see what happens? And I'm not saying that just because Austin and I happen to be the ones beating them, but like, we had a whole slew of singles players, and yet we had, you know, 4 doubles guys in the finals playing for a gold medal. So I mean, I don't think I don't know why it keeps coming up, and I don't know why people don't like look not that far long ago to see what has actually happened, especially when it's a situation like the Olympics or Davis Cup or whatever, where singles players actually genuinely care about the result. Because I think it's a lot easier for some of these guys to go have a swing at a Masters 1000 or a 500 or whatever, when it's not really their main focus. Like, oh yeah, we played doubles, we had a swing, we won, great, let's play again. Oh, we lost. Oh, okay, whatever, I'm here for singles anyway. It's a completely different mindset when you're playing and you're putting 100% of your effort mentally and physically into something because you really care about the result. I think that's when you genuinely see what happens. And it's happened before, and I think it's going to happen again.
So I want to move to the debate This was kind of, I don't know, dumb to me when it first came out, but the debate on nothing majors with John and Sam and Steve Johnson. They, I think it was Sam and John Isner said that center would beat the doubles team. I saw you commented on one of the Instagram
Hmm.
posts. Why are they incorrect?
They're incorrect because two people are going to beat one person, regardless of who's on the other side. And I mean, it's the same thing. I remember having this discussion with somebody like many years ago. If I think it was Rafa at the time was number one in the world, would beat the number one doubles team alone. And I think the number one doubles team, if I'm not mistaken, at the time was Jean-Julien Roger and Horia Takao. So I mean, we're going back a few years here. So like you say, these things just keep coming up, and Sinner's an amazing player. He's going to be, in the running for records and whatever else. But I mean, two people against one person, it's a pretty simple thing for me, at least.
Do you think if Sinner decided for whatever reason to give up his singles career and focus on doubles today, do you think he would be number one in the world within 2 years, say?
I mean, look, number one in the world. I don't know. He would be great at it. I think
Yeah.
that is also a point that has to be made, is that the reason that these results happen this way is just because of the effort and time that the doubles players put into it, and the effort and time that the singles players don't put into it. I mean, I don't think anyone's going to argue that if the best singles players went and became doubles players and had a career with it and really gave it their all, that they wouldn't be great at it. I'm not saying that by any stretch. They don't do that. I mean, as Rafa famously said in a press conference, if doesn't exist. So like, yeah, I mean, they're not there now. Yeah. But if they did that, probably. But I mean, to say that Sinner or anyone else would be number one, I don't know, maybe, but I mean, they certainly would be very good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it seems like top 10 isn't like a stretch to say. It probably depends on the player too, right? Like it'd probably
Yeah,
be a
sure. It
bit more
depends on a lot of things.
difficult
I mean, the
for,
one thing also people don't really take into account about doubles is how much of a team sport it is. And I think being a good teammate is a huge part of being a good doubles player. So, like, I think some of the players are probably going to be better teammates than others. And I think, you know, it's not out of the realm to say that some of the top guys and girls would be good or would be better than others because of various reasons.
yeah, that reminds me, like, yeah, so yesterday I was reading through Vavasori's press conference from after his mixed matches, and he used the word organized. He said, we're often better organized than the singles players. And it got kind of into my head, the sport of basketball. Like when you'll
Mhm.
see a team like in the NCAA tournament, like St. Louis or somebody like IUPUI or whoever it is, like one
Yeah.
of these smaller mid-major
Don't
schools.
don't hate on IUPUI, all right?
It's exactly one of these smaller like mid-major schools who's like very well coached and very well organized, and they beat a more athletic team. And if you took those five players from each team and had them all play one-on-one, it wouldn't even be close.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I mean,
yesterday, if
look,
we took Fritz versus Vavasori in singles and
it's not
Rybakina versus
close.
Irani, it's not close,
Not close. And
but it's
everybody
a
knows
team
that.
sport.
Yeah, everybody knows that. Look, I mean, in our world, in the doubles world, that sort of happened with the British guys. You know, I'm not going to say that they're going to go lose every match they play in singles, but they're so incredibly well coached by Louis Caillé, who is someone who I've had the pleasure of spending a long time with, that they are more organized than everybody else, and they are able to win matches based on that as opposed to just their pure tennis talent. It doesn't mean that they're not talented players or whatever, but it does get you an awful lot of wins when maybe you don't have your best tennis, if you are playing the right way and playing as a team and all that. It gives you a chance. It's what I always said. With Joe and I, when we did that stuff right, it gave us a chance to be better the next day and to play well the next day. And so I think he's absolutely right.
I want to move on to a comment you made on another podcast, actually, and this is something that I share with a lot of my players because I liked the analogy so much. So you were on, this was probably a couple years ago at this point, with Jonathan Stokey, who has a great podcast, and you talked about playing at the net and imagining you have a two by four at the net.
Yeah.
Can you share the analogy and kind of how it helps you?
Yeah, that's strictly for me for being server's partner. So when my partner is serving and the return is coming, I'm very close to the net and I'm basically just trying to deflect the ball. And that's more or less what it is. How would you hit a tennis ball with a piece of wood with a 2x4? Well, you wouldn't take a swing, you wouldn't like try to cut it at all. You wouldn't try to hit any spin on it because it wouldn't be possible. You're literally sticking the thing out there and just trying to deflect the ball to the angle that you want it to go. And so it just helps me when, maybe I'm a little tight, there's some pressure, and I'm feeling like it's all happening fast. The ball's coming really hard to think about what do I need the racket to do? And it's just to sit there and basically be something to deflect the ball with.
Hmm. Maybe I'll get a 2x4 out in my next doubles camp and
There you
see how
go.
people do.
I must say, excuse me, I've never actually tried it. So I don't know if it works, but it works in my head.
I'm sure it would work a little bit. It'd just be a little bit more difficult to
Yeah.
maneuver.
Yeah.
So you are 41. You are coming off a Masters 1000 title. You're playing probably the best tennis you've played all year. How much longer do you want to keep doing this? And is this a conversation that you have a lot with your friends and family?
It's one that I've started to have more now, for sure, no question.
Okay.
I will tell you, I'm not going to Asia this year. I'm taking a bit of a break after the U.S. Open. I still hope to get selected for the Davis Cup team. Would put everything into that if I could, which is right after the U.S. Open in Delray Beach. So whether that happens or not, I'm still not going to go to Asia. So that's going to be about 4 or 5 weeks off after in the fall. We'll have some time to think and just really reassess and see where I'm at. Like I said to somebody the other day, if every tournament was in Cincinnati, Ohio, which is 2 hours from home, when I can see friends and family and play in front of them and enjoy that, I'd play forever. But that's just not the case. The idea of getting on a plane and going to Beijing or Shanghai or Paris or whatever else is as lovely as those cities are. It's a lot after you've done it for 20 years. So, yeah, gonna have a little bit of a break and just sort of reassess. I still plan to play some, maybe at the end of the year or whatever, but just taking it sort of 1 week at a time right now. And then we'll make some decisions and have some more clarity, hopefully by the end of the year.
So a couple of last questions from Twitter and Instagram, kind of related. How do you manage recovery and stay healthy over the long term?
Yeah, it's really hard actually. As you get older, that stuff gets harder and harder. I think you really have to manage your schedule. Like I said, flying, traveling, jet lag, all that stuff does not help any of the health side of things. So for me, it's making sure I take rest and take the breaks, and that means fully taking the breaks, not like, oh, I'm going to rest, but I'm going to hit a few balls today because this doesn't feel right or that doesn't feel right. No, it means being off the court completely. It also means being smart about doing whatever I need to do in the gym. A lot of this stuff nowadays in the gym for me is about sort of that stuff, prevention, rehab, whatever it might be. It's not necessarily for like gaining any strength or anything like that at this point. Um, and then, yeah, I mean, I think it's just trying to find a balance, right? It's trying to find a balance, listening to yourself when you need a break, when you don't, when you need to push a little bit more. You usually have it in there. You have the answer somewhere in there if you dig deep enough.
How much time do you spend maintaining skills versus learning new ones? I guess this would probably be a bit more relevant earlier in your career, but
Yeah.
how do you think about that?
Yeah. Cool. I can't ever say that there's nothing new to learn. Obviously, there's something new to learn all the time. I just feel like maybe that is a slightly smaller percentage. It's not going to be some groundbreaking thing. I'm not all of a sudden going to be playing tennis a different way. So I think at this point in my career, I would say it's vastly on the majority side of improving skills as opposed to learning new ones. But there's always maybe a little trick or a little sort of cue that you can pick up that I haven't thought of before. Maybe something slightly change where I need to sort of alter something a little bit. So I guess that's in a way a new skill, but I would still say it's more refining old skills.
Do you have an example of one of those you can share that maybe you've learned in the last 5 years or so?
Um, it's interesting. Let me think. I feel like one thing for sure is that we talked about the return of serve a bit. One thing is like just paying a little bit more. Obviously, as we get older, we get a little bit slower and we get a little bit less reactive. And so I found that I thought guys were maybe were able to ace me a little bit more. So just paying a little bit more attention to like little cues and little things and being okay with taken away something, or sorry, giving away something to make sure I take something else away, so that's not something I ever thought of before. Maybe before it was more like, I'm going to cover the box, and if you get it by me, too good, but I'm going to really do my best to defend here. Now it's maybe a little bit more of, well, I'm going to make sure you don't beat me here, but if you hit a really good one over to that side that I'm not covering, I'll give it to you, that kind of thing,
Yeah. Does pointing your left toe up during the serve do anything to help?
No, maybe. I don't know. It's a habit. It's something I've obviously this has been, beaten into the ground, but I've obviously copied Pete quite a lot in my whole tennis game, and he did it, and so I did it, and I don't know. It's just part of my service motion now at this point.
Where on your racket do you put your shock absorber or vibration dampener?
Same place anyone else puts it, bottom string, right in the middle. That's the only place I've ever known to put a vibration dampener.
I'm not sure it's legal to put it anywhere else.
I'm not sure it'd be helpful to put it anywhere else. If you put it in the middle of the racket, you're going to hit it a lot. Well, unless you don't hit the middle of the racket.
I think there's a rule. I think it has to be below the bottom string.
Oh, there you go.
I'm not positive on that though. This is an interesting one. What is the biggest outburst you've had with a doubles partner that you can share on the podcast?
Outburst, they mean like a fight.
I guess they mean like an argument or a fight.
I mean, I remember one time getting in a fight with Joe about him being late, and it was a bit ridiculous because I was probably annoyed about something else, and we weren't winning that much. And I was, I said something to him, he said something back, and it was about 30 seconds, and then we just went to practice. But I'm not much of an outburst person. I usually say it after it's maybe gone a little bit cooler than that.
Last one here. Is Katie Volleynets the best doubles partner you've ever had? And can we expect to see you together again in the future?
She's a lovely girl, I'll say that. Katie has become a really good friend of mine. We spend some time in the Bay Area where she's from, so I hit with her some last off season. We played Wimbledon together last year, it was. She's just an awesome person. So I hope we can play again for sure, because that was a lot of fun for me.
Awesome. Raj, congrats again on the title in Cincinnati, and good luck the rest of the year.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Doubles Only Tennis Podcast. If you're interested in diving deeper into the world of doubles strategy, I've created Tennis Tribe memberships that allow me to bring you more podcast episodes, video lessons, webinars, and other doubles content on a weekly basis without relying on paid ads. The lessons inside the membership will help you better game plan with your partner, optimize your practices, and become the smartest player on the court. Go to thetennistribe.com/memberships to learn more and sign up. You can also join my free newsletter on our homepage, where I share a new doubles lesson every week. If you want to connect, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, or contact me through our website. Thanks again for listening.